Okay, welcome back to my channel. Bit of posh. So I'm going to do you a quick demonstration of what we use as our main engine room of our band. And the main engine room will be the Studio Live 32R from PreSonus. It's a cracking rack-mounted digital mixer. Okay, we've been running this for a few years. We've had a number of the PreSonus range digital mixers, starting with the 1642 AI, which we use as a practice desk now, and we're blessed that we've got a really good digital mixer as a practice desk. Just switch that off a second. But I also use that as a main desk. It's a 16-channel desk, but we use that as a main desk when I do PA jobs for charity events, multi-band events, which I do 2 or 3 a year. And I like to use that desk because it has actually got physical controllers. But I prefer to use this desk week in, week out with my live band because, as you can see, my amp is there, and there's a rack with the mixer and other gubbins, which we'll come to in a second, all set on top. So basically, it's a very tiny footprint. So if we're playing small venues, I don't have to have a separate table for a mixer and cables going in all different directions. Plus, a lot of what I'll show you in a second, there's some stuff that's pre-wired, which saves us a bundle of time while setting up. Because if we had to wire everything in that we did every gig, it'd take us hours to set up, and setup is relatively long already as it is. Although we've got it down to a fine art. So to start off with the mixer, it isn't fully populated because I've only got the setup as a demo for some YouTube videos I've been shooting, demonstrating a few of the bits. So the lead vocals, she goes in stereo. My vocal, the drummer's vocal, and the guitarist vocal, we're all in mono. Although I'm going to be changing back to stereo. The acoustic guitar is there, the lead guitar, the bass in mono, the keys, as you can see, is on a jack there. There's a feed for a what says click, overhead mic, and that says K for kick. I'm not sure if you saw all those. Okay, that's K for kick, and that cable goes disappearing into the back of the rack there. And we'll come back to that in a second. So above that is the Audio Technica, what is it? It's a UHF stereo transmitter for my in-ears. That's what I use for the in-ear monitors. So I have a wireless pack, and I'm using the Shure 535 in-ear monitors, which I find are excellent dual drivers. They sound great. The isolation is, very good. And they save my hearing, so I'm not got that whoosh of a noise. But this is quite old hat now. It still works really well. I don't get very many dropouts. Batteries do tend to... I get about 2, maybe 3 gigs out of a set of batteries. But yeah, it's a cracking bit of kit. The guitarist, however, uses the new X-Vive, X-Vive in-ear system, the wireless system. Now, these are really good actually. Quite small. We've got it permanently wired up and permanently on charge. We'll switch it on there. You can see the lights coming on. And so this never goes out. Even if battery goes flat, it's on charge all the time. And he has his receiver that he charges up, and it doesn't take much to get enough charge in a main gig. And I'm thinking about getting another one of these for myself, so I can free up this rack space, because I want to bring in back in a Furman, what they call it, the Furman, oh gosh, distribution thing that cleans up your sound anyway, you know what I mean, which I could probably fit in here somewhere and then relocate them somewhere else. So above there is a really old now Apple, I think it's called an Airport Wi-Fi router, and it's dual band. I think it does 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequency, and I've set it to 5 gigahertz, and we've had this a long time since we started with digital mixing. We've had this a long time, and it's sat there. It was great thing about it, it's less than 1U, so it fits in there, because you get some of those routers that are just huge things with antennas stuck out of them. It sits in there. I've got it velcro to the top of my wireless in here, and it just works week in, week out. I switch it on, 30 seconds later, green light comes on, bang, we're all connected, and we have that's hardwired into the PreSonus. Now, you don't need to have a router, because you could, in theory, use a mobile phone as a tethering device. Get this connected to your mobile phone and connect all your other devices via your mobile phone, or you could use a venue's in-house built-in Wi-Fi. You could also do that as well, but it's better to have your own router, so you've got your own closed system. And like I say, it's on the 5 gigahertz bandwidth, which is, well, no, back in the day it used to be less populated, but it's quite a busy frequency now. But generally, that thing has been rock solid. Good old Apple. It just had it, and I can't remember how much I paid for it, but we've had it lots of years, a long time, over 10 years, and I bought it second hand. So that's trucking away, and I've got to curse it now. So, is there anything else on the desk? So, yeah. The click, we can cover that one on a different one. So above there, we've got, this is my iPad mini that I use for my monitor mix. That normally sits on top of my keyboard, which is conveniently placed, and it has a nice little flat area, which my water is covering at the moment. So, yeah, that sits there nicely, and I can just alter my mixes and when I need it. So in this shelf, pull-out shelf, there are some battery chargers, some AA's we've got set up. I actually can charge 12 of them at once, but over the years our AA battery usage has changed and is reduced. So now it's just my acoustic guitar wireless pack and my in-ear monitor receiver pack, which needs AA's. So I don't change them that often, so probably what I'll do is I'm going to get rid of a couple of these, free up a bit of space, and just go down to 4 batteries on charge at once, because that's all I need. All the other batteries that we use, like in my bass receiver and the guitar and the singer's receiver is Shure, and we have these type of batteries. I'm not sure what they are, specific ones, and as the guitarist also has a Shure one. Incidentally, the guitarist has a new version of the Shure system, and they have a similar sort of battery, but Shure being Shure, I'm sure it's not just that manufacturer, they've just changed the shape of the battery ever so slightly. Now, I've not looked into the specs of the battery, but Shure, the guitarist and I share the same model GLXD wireless system, but mine's the earlier version, his is the new version. I don't know what the voltage or any other ampage might be different to justify the battery it's being different. I don't know, but they've changed the shape, whatever. So aside of that is just an old tablet, which we have just running background music, and that is running an app called Party Mixer, which is a really old app, but it just trucks on nicely. It's like a little basic DJ app, and this old tablet can also connect to Spotify. So sometimes on the odd occasion we might play, if I need a bit of music off the internet, I can connect up to a Spotify account or activate the Spotify account and run it off there. We have been caught short once at a wedding, and we didn't have any. I can't remember how we overcome it. I didn't have Spotify on this, and so we had somebody wanted a song for the first dance, and we hadn't been given the heads up, so I could get the MP3 for it. So I ended up streaming it from YouTube. I managed to get internet connection and get YouTube up, but now we've got Spotify in there, so I've got pretty much all the songs in the world. But that just trucks on nicely, and that comes out 3.5 jack, and it's permanently on charge, which is, all these things are charged by an Anker multi-USB charger there, and that charges the XVive that you saw earlier, charges this battery charger, charges the MP3, and it also charges the iPad, which we'll come to in a second. Above that, I can't get the drawer right out, is a Roland TD10 drum brain. Okay, and that activates the sounds for the drum kit. Now the drum kit's a hybrid drum kit, so the only sounds that this does is the kick drum and the 3 toms, the 2 rack toms and the 1 floor tom. It used to do the snare drum. We used to have an electric snare drum as well, but the drum has gone back to an acoustic snare, so we just keep to the kick, and the 3 toms are on the are getting activated. And if we go back down, excuse me, if we go back down here, you can see the kick is wired into that channel there, channel 24. Incidentally, back to the PreSonus, you see that 1 to 12. This is a 32 channel desk. 1 to 12 isn't occupied or populated. There will be in the future, because I'm going to bring a few things back in. We populate this desk from channel 13 all the way to channel 32, which I'll show you around the back in a second. Now the reason why we do that, we don't go from 1, is simply because how I've wired up the drum brain, they're taking the back end of the channels. That's channel 20 from channel 24, 25, because there is channels behind this. And I've bunched up all the other channels, so which basically makes it easier when we're using our monitor, which I'll show you in a second. My monitor app, excuse me for the light, let me just move that. We have them all in the same bunching, and all 1 to 12 are unoccupied, but it means if I had them on 1 to 12, there'd be a big gap between there and the drums. That's why we do that, which also means I use this as a spare desk on the multi-band events, because I'm using the 1642. It gives me 12 channels. Well, it gives me 32 if I wanted, but I can quickly just, if my other desk goes down, I can quickly whack stuff in here and away we go, because this is already on standby and ready to go in that such event. Okay, before I turn it around, I'll go up. I've showed on previous videos, this is where the synth noises are generated out of the Korg NS5R, and that's in a separate rack. It's in a little 2U rack. Incidentally, both of these racks, one's a 6U, one's a 2U. These are Orange County SKB racks. The top one is a short one, which I bought in 2019, brand new, cracking bit of kit. This one I picked up second hand from somewhere, and they're great because they're nice and light, and they're very, very robust. But the main thing is that they're nice and light. Obviously not as robust as big touring cases, but the type of gigging that we do, they've held up really well, and they've protected all the gear, because we've been running this stuff. Apart from the desk, we've had this setup for quite a number of years, but we've changed the desk, but it has been the same cases, and everything has been working perfectly fine. None of it died of the dreaded COVID of 2020, whatever that was. It all survived. Right, so the synth produces all the sounds that I've shown on previous videos for the Keith McMillan and the keyboard sounds. Above that is the singer's wireless receiver. She uses the Shure GLXD 4R, and she has the GLX, whatever it is, I'm not even sure. It's a Shure GLX something or other that goes with this, which is fantastic. It's a great bit of kit. Like I said, it uses those batteries. Usually, you get about 10 to 12 hours of battery life out of it. It's dead straightforward. We used to use the Line 6 system before, which I can't remember the model. And that was good. It was very, very good. But if you dropped them, they broke in half, which we did. The buttons were a little tricky to get on. This is dead straightforward. On, off, no messing about. There is some other functionality. However, the antennas starting to get a bit sorry. The antenna's still there, but the plastic bit is missing off that one. So we're looking to get an antenna. We do get dropout. Prior to this break, and we used to get a little bit of dropout, but I'm looking to get bigger antennas. Just so the next to this is a little headphone amp, because I use in-ears on a couple of songs, and because we run tracks, I need to hear the click for the count off of the songs. And this headphone amp is purely for when we play venues that have their own in-house PA. So there's no need for our desk. I don't need to bring any of this. I just purely bring the synth, the wireless receiver, and this is already there, ready to go. So what I do is I take a feed from the Roland SPDSX, and there's a separate auxiliary channel that I feed the click purely into there, and out of there it comes a long 3.5 headphone extension. So I just pop at one ear into my ears and listen for the click, just to count off a couple of songs. Then I can pull it out, and it doesn't really matter because then the drummer takes over. But that's there purely for that purpose, and that happens maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 times a year. We gig about 40 to 60 times a year. So it's not much of a drama just to have that there sat there. It would have freed up space. So above there, this is the main controller of the desk, which is the 2011 MacBook Pro, and I believe this is the last generation, the last year that you could have you could replace the memory cards in it. They weren't soldered onto the board, to which I've done. I think I've maxed this out at 16 gig. Put a solid state drive in it, so it's super fast. It's a 2011 MacBook Pro, and it's really fast. It's not the slim one, and that is there purely, that's wired in via USB to the back of the PreSonus Studio Live 32R, and we use that. Well, that's there mainly if we lose control. This is the main iPad I use to control and do the sound check, and as you can see, it's showing some meterage there as it is there. These pages are identical, because the main control of the desk when we're doing the sound check and when I need to adjust anything, I generally do it on the iPad, because I can just, it's touchscreen, so I can change it, whereas this I have to use the mouse. But this is there purely if I lose Wi-Fi signal. I have no control over the iPad, I have no control over the desk. The laptop's always wired in, I have some control, and we can get through a gig. If we do lose the router or Wi-Fi for whatever reason, or an iPad goes flat, that's always there. Incidentally, obviously, if you connect up to the Wi-Fi, you can control the desk via Wi-Fi as well, but it's hardwired in with the USB cable, which I carry a spare USB cable because it goes from USB to USB, this kind of square one. I think it's USB-B, is it, or USB 2 or whatever it is. But anyway, I keep a spare cable, printer cable. It's kind of printer cable, which we'll show you in a sec. Incidentally, I'll show you a couple of faults with this. Now, this I haven't updated this desk in a number of years. It works, and I don't want to update it and risk losing functionality on these iPads, because these iPads are quite old. The MacBook is, also quite old, so I don't want to upgrade the desk to the latest firmware or whatever it is, because it's working. And I've fallen foul for that before, where I've updated to the latest firmware and the Universal Control app that supports the desk won't work because the iPads are quite old, and the old version, because iPad is Apple is like it is, you can't access older apps, you can't go backwards compatible, and so you just lose access on an app. So I'm leaving it as is. I ain't changing anything. But as a consequence, there is some anomalies, as you can see on the iPad. Those two channels look unmuted, and the exact same channels are muted on the desk. Now, if I go to the master unmute on the Studio Live, which is a handy button to have in an emergency, you'll see that the channels unmute on the iPad, on the MacBook, and the don't. Let's see, I'm getting both in picture. Yep, you can hear the hiss of the amp, which is my monitor, my bass amp or monitor amp. That's a weird little anomaly. So if I'm changing stuff, I mean, it's just generally me that does the sound check. The singer helps out when I go to do the vocals to sound check my vocals. And now if I adjust anything on the MacBook and it's muted or unmuted, it'll look, I say, like the Roland there, for instance. I'll unmute that on the MacBook, and it's just made me a complete lie because it's unmuted it there. But the point being is, sometimes it's been problematic because some things that look muted on here are actually unmuted. So you're thinking, is it unmuted, or vice versa, depending on the thing. It's just a weird little anomaly, but I can live with it. Right, let's show you around the back. Show you around the back of this bad boy. I'm going to pause the video and get around the back. Right, here we are on the back. I'm going to go opposite direction this time. So here we've got the 2U rack. We've got the back of the NS5R synth. So there is the MIDI in, which comes from the MIDI merger. Power in. I've got Blu-Tack around these ports, which help just stops, because they pop out now and again, so a little bit of Blu-Tack helps them with the vibration. I've got a little multi-adapter there, which then powers the Shure GLX and my headphone amp. Not very exciting. And there's also the output, the main mono output, which will be going to stereo, because it's got a few stereo effects on the synth, which sound pretty good. But I did drop everything to mono for easy, but I'm going to go back. So in the back of the main flight case, it's a bit busy. You can see a lot of plugs. Obviously in the UK, so we've got 3-pin, because we use Earth in the UK. Right, excuse me for my sniffling, because I'm still got a bad case of the man flu. So hopefully you can see there, that's the back of the Roland TD10, I think it is, yes, the TD10. And these jacks represent outputs for the different drums: kick, snare, tom 1, tom 2 and tom 3. Kick, snare, tom 1, 2 and 3. And now they have been routed to outputs that the TD10 offers you, because some of the drum brains only have a left and right out, some have one auxiliary out, and this has, I think you can have up to 6 different individual drums outputted on their own volume, on their own channels, which means I can have those individual drums on their own channels of the desk, which gives me control when I'm mixing the band, which is great. So rather than having a stereo left and right and all the drums on one, which you could do if you've got them balanced up, I like to have each individual drum, because depending on the room, you might be getting too much low frequency, and so you want to bop down the bass, or EQ the bass drum. You might want to EQ it, but if you do that on a single channel, you're obviously EQing everything. And they are, can you see, all triggered. All the triggers go in there to this loom that we had made up. So this loom, I should have tidied this up before I started filming. This is only tangled up because I rushed to get this out earlier. And the other end of that loom, are the trigger inputs for the drums, because all the drums that are triggered, that are electronic drums on the drum kit, obviously are triggered. They look like acoustic shells because they're actually proper drums, but they've got mesh heads with the electronic triggers in there. And the drummer, like I said, uses a acoustic kick, acoustic snare. So we have them. I have wired in a mic cable for the snare drum that he pops onto the drum for when we mic up the snare drum. Right. So that's quite busy back there. As you can see, there's all these plugs plugged in there. That's for the in-ears. There's a power for the router, for the battery chargers and what have you. Now, everything doesn't come up to 13 amps. So everything's through this distro board, distro plug, but it doesn't go over 13 amps. There's not more than 13 amps draw. Maybe just slightly more. But we've never had a problem with fuses. Nothing's blown. Below there, you can see where the outputs are. That's a better picture. There we go. There's a bit more light in there. There's the back of the TD10. And like I say, those are the outputs that are providing the actual sound. There's the trigger inputs. And so out of the TD10 comes in down here. Where is it? Can you see? I might have to shoot this again in better light, but so you can see the channels, those cables. There we are, the jacks. That was the electric snare. We've not taken it out. It's there ready to go back. If ever the drummer wants to go back to the electric snare. And there, the first 12 channels are taken up by two are the 31 and 32 are taken up by the MP3 player, because annoyingly PreSonus share the phono in as 31 and 32, so you've only got the choice of either the jack or the multi input or the phono input. You probably can plug stuff in both, but you've got no mixer control over them. We did have the original rack, Studio Live rack mixer, the previous generation to this, and it did have a separate phono input plus your 16 channels or your 32 channels, whichever iteration of that disc was. But this is a little bit cheeky by PreSonus. I'm a little bit annoyed with it, because if we used to have the 16 channel version of this desk, so taking up 2 channels for the MP3 player was a bit annoying, although I did split it down to taking 1 channel, but nevertheless it was 1 channel down when I could have had, when they used to do it where the phono was separate channels. It's a bit annoying. But anyways, so then it goes Roland SPDSX left and right, because that's stereo, and that comes in via a couple of cables here. Where is it? This one. So that comes in on a couple of jacks. Then it goes Tom 3, Tom 2, Tom 1, snare. So that takes up the first bank of channels, and then at the front you saw the kick earlier. Now below that is the monitor feed, and the top one, this one that's plugged in, is the singer's monitor, which comes to this little output here, that little female jack output there, and we'll come back to that in a second. Then there's the guitarist's, mine, and then the drummer's, and then this one, I think, yeah, this one is the amp monitor. Now, and you see how many monitor mixers you can have on this. It's incredible. I think it's up to 16 you can have. It's just ridiculous. You know, if you had 16 musicians on stage, you could all have your each own individual in-ear mix control via your iPad. It's just a super powerful bit of kit. Now back to the singers. Why do I have that there? And also the main left and right is there, and I've got them plugged in to a couple of short XLRs there. And the reason why I have them plugged in is because once I get this rack and everything set in place, me fiddling about trying to plug in cables behind here, it's a bit tight, it's a bit fiddly, and I have to, and if space is tight and I can't, you know, I'm on a stage space and time's pressing, fanning about trying to find that is a pain. So what I do is I have these in, so I can just put my hand round and it's there, easy, plug in the main left and right. Incidentally, the main amp, my amp, it has a short kettle lead that comes out, because this is always sat on top of the amp. As a short kettle lead comes out, and bang, that's in, ready to go. These other cables that come out here are the power and the USB, which comes out of the desk, and these jack cables, which one of them snagged up. Two of the jack cables do the left and right for the Roland SPDSX, and the other two do the left and right for the monitor for the SPDXS for the drummer to listen to, and it also carries a power cable to power the Roland SPDSX. So there we go, massive cables. That's our main engine room. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Don't smash that like button, press it gently, because I want lots of people to use it. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.